Welcome to our session on top remote and hybrid team reports to boost productivity and optimize costs. I think it's going to be a great one. I feel like every time we dive into the reports and really show how to use them, people get a lot of great ideas, or they really understand how to use things a little bit better. So with that, I'd like to introduce two of my absolute favorite speakers. Sarah Altimus, our productivity lab manager, and Leah Ivory, our senior sales engineer. Both have been on webinars in the past. So if you've been on webinars in the past, they will be friendly faces for you. And if not, they are amazing. And they are going to take you through today's content. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Sarah.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. And thanks to those of you on the call. We really appreciate you joining us this morning. We are going to talk a bit about how hybrid and remote work has evolved. We'll then go into reports about how to boost productivity and call out reports that you can leverage to optimize costs. We'll talk a bit about ActivTrak Academy, our learning portal, and then we'll jump into any questions that you have. So look forward to talking through this with you. So we have all experienced multiple phases of hybrid and remote work. In 2020, like we all know, we were faced with a forced adoption on a global scale. So this was a response out of necessity. We had to adopt short-term practices to make sure that we had those in place so that we could continue with business continuity, try to keep up with business as usual under unprecedented circumstances. As time went on, we did attempt to return to normalcy, whether that was your organization bringing some people back into the office or making peace with and formalizing a hybrid or remote workplace policy. Moving into 2021, we saw a repeating pattern of temporary approaches as that uncertainty continued. There were lots of high-profile, wide-scale returns to office that were planned, and those quickly got scheduled and rescheduled because of a combination of internal and external factors. So for a long period of time, we continued to experiment with what those longer-term solutions could be to manage our hybrid and remote workforce. Moving into 2022, we started to accept a new normal. We shifted to embracing agile hybrid work. We've seen a number of our customers evolve from are my employees working to how are they working? How can I help them work wiser? How can I help them be more thoughtful in the processes that they're adopting? Moving into 2022 and 2023, organizations were really evaluating new norms and technology solutions and management techniques. So how can we learn from the top performers, spread best practices across an organization, even though we might not be in the same office setting or even time zone? I'm here in sunny Seattle, Washington. My teammates, Megan and Leah, are in Austin, Texas. So we ourselves have experienced this displacement, which really has allowed us to, find the top talent no matter where they are. So as we kick off 2025, we anticipate that organizations will focus on rebalancing in a more sustainable way. So how they can harmonize productivity with well-being, AI with human capital, and flexibility with connection. So hybrid work is a really critical mechanism for retaining talent in an economical way. It allows organizations to identify, again, the right talent independent of where they sit. Leaders need to know how to support these distributed workforces in ways that don't just ensure that they're at work and present every day, but really that they're performing their best in a sustainable way. And this will be a real differentiator for organizations, but it's certainly not without challenges. So we would love to know how your company, if you have started requiring employees to return to the office, or sort of where your organization is on your remote and hybrid journey. So Megan, if we could pop up that poll. Excellent, thank you. So are you fully back in the office? Are you hybrid, or are you fully remote?
See responses coming in. This is an awesome audience. We've got great participation today. Thanks, everybody. All right, we'll give you just another couple of seconds if you want to get your answer in. We definitely want to know. All right, let's go ahead and end it. We can share results. Oh, I think I accidentally, there we go. Share results. There you go.
Great. So the hard majority of you, 73%, are hybrid. That is unsurprising, but it's really nice to confirm. And we do have some people on the call who are fully in the office. And then 16% are like us at ActivTrak. We are fully a remote first organization. So it's nice to see we have that distribution. And again, not surprised to see that the largest percentage is hybrid. I think you're able to then offer that flexibility while still having a home base in the form of an office or multiple offices. So thank you for sharing that. That will certainly help us as we talk through some of these reports. So moving on, want to talk a little bit about the distributed digital workforce and how it can make it difficult to measure and manage your assets. So it's difficult to measure and manage because most organizations are facing these compounding challenges when work changed forever during that increased adoption of hybrid and distributed work. So there was already a big percentage of digital workers, but it grew exponentially. And digital work is largely invisible. And because of that, leaders really struggle to understand how that work activity contributes to achieving results or missing them. So as a result, we see that 40% of work is considered wasted productivity. When you add the factor that labor costs account for more than 70% of a typical company spend, that problem becomes even bigger. So, in today's rapidly growing and evolving, ever changing dynamic world, we're making major investments to improve how work gets done, yet we can't really see the work itself. And so, with that work being a bit of a mystery and unknown black box, we see that 83% of CXOs can't measure the impact of their workforce investments. So, these organizations can't measure which investments and decisions are driving results versus which aren't. Millions of dollars can be lost because of misinformed decisions around overhiring when there may be underutilized capacity, extra resources within the organization already. You might be implementing new technologies that just aren't being used and have others on the shelf sitting there as well. So just wanted to share some of these statistics to help contextualize the problem. Now I want to walk through a bit more general globally what some of the challenges of managing workforce performance can be. I'm sure that you identify with, if not all six of these, certainly some of them. So starting on the left side are some of the most common pain points that we're familiar with. And these were started to be felt most acutely 3 or 4 years ago, but still certainly the impacts remain. So we have visibility into time worked. This can be particularly challenging with distributed teams. How can you tell people are working at a given time? So many rely on whether or not they have that green dot active indicator next to their name in a chat messaging tool, but that doesn't really indicate if they're working or if they're engaged. It's just that physical presence. So that visibility connects to the second challenge of workplace policy and how it's being adhered to. If we can't see if people are working, we certainly can't really tell that adherence to a work policy. And as many of you said, you have a hybrid approach. I'd be curious if you've formalized that process and how you're able to validate if people are adhering to it. So moving to the navy ones in the middle, we need the ability to identify if people are engaged. Are they burned out? Do they have additional capacity to take on new tasks? Are they quiet quitting? What does the engagement of your organization feel like when you have people distributed across a range of locations? Many of us went from having one office to 500 offices when a team became fully remote. So understanding this productivity and engagement, you can also know when you need to better support employee well-being and manage attrition risks. It's really critical to be able to support the whole employee and this wide range of needs. So moving over to the far right, we see that challenges around how we maximize and leverage capacity in our organization. This capacity can be viewed through the lens of time capacity. It may be, are people completing their work in 5 hours really efficiently? Do you have insight into how to better leveraging those remaining hours that you would expect them to be working? And that can become hard to see and manage in a hybrid workplace. But capacity ranges beyond just that time capacity. It also includes a capacity on your technology licenses, a capacity on your office space portfolio. So these challenges that are associated with modern work are really amplified in a hybrid approach. Again, these challenges have existed for decades, and we have come up with ways to mitigate them and work around them, but things are continuously changing. So when the shift to hybrid work became more prevalent, some challenges began to resurface or intensify. But luckily, these are all measurable, which is what we're here to talk to you about. And before we kind of jump into showing you how to measure, I'd love to hear from you about which of these are top of mind. So Megan, if we could pull up our next poll. When you're thinking about this year, what challenges are top of mind for your organization? If you could pick your top three, that would be great.
I feel like it's hard to choose, and looking at them, I'm thinking about the priorities and the challenges here, and I feel like they all fit. So choosing three is hard. All right. We'll give you just another 5 to 10 seconds. And I still see responses coming in, which is great. This audience is amazing. This is really great participation. I'm not going to lie. Okay. All right. I think we've got our results in, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for responding. I will echo what Megan said. Y'all have been an excellent audience so far. Your participation in this helps us not only with where we can focus our time today as Leah goes through the product, but even future thinking and how we can create solutions that help our customers address these challenges. So unsurprisingly, we have visibility into time work. That one's really foundational. You want to be able that you have just that line of sight. Low engagement and productivity, another one that broke the 70%. Thank you for sharing those challenges there. And then unused workforce capacity. So happy to report that we'll certainly be talking about all of these things really directly. So thanks again for sharing these. This is really helpful. All right, so with that in mind, we are going to look at what reports you can use to boost productivity. We have the first two reports that Leah is going to talk to us about are activity breakdown and top users and groups. These provide that visibility and insight into measuring and optimizing productivity. Then she's going to take us through activity alignment. This helps ensure that activities are aligned with business goals and that employees are focused on the right priorities. And then ActivTrak Coach, which helps drive effective conversations based on more distilled, accessible, actionable data. The third route that we'll walk through is centered on workload balance, which this will get right to the core of the state of engagement in your workplace that you might not otherwise be able to see. Even if you have the right talent with the right skill set, they might not be sure where to direct that time and energy. And then finally, we have schedule adherence and location insights. This combination of reports allows you to compare work habits and productivity by location and measure the adoption or adherence of your workplace policies. So Leah, I'm going to hand it over to you and ask that you walk us through how we can look at these insights so that we can drive a higher level of success in a hybrid or remote environment.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Go ahead and share my screen real quick here. Perfect. Okay. And thank you, by the way, that was an excellent overview and introduction to our topic today. I am going to be starting, as mentioned, with our activity breakdown, which is really a high-level report meant to surface those productivity outliers for managers and leaders and help provide a more targeted visibility into a distributed workforce. It focuses on a customized productivity goal, this pink dot here. And so you can set a productivity goal on a per team, per group, per department basis, as the digital expectations can really vary from one function to another. This report can also be subscribed to and so just delivered to your inbox at any cadence that you need, which is lovely. As a manager receiving this on a Monday, I can quickly verify whether my team has put in the expected productivity level in the last week or so, depending on my filters. In this case, I expect 7 hours on productive activities for my specific team. My team did average just that. We're right at 7 on the digital activity, but we even surpassed our goal up to 7.3 if you include this offline meeting time, which again, fantastic, no concerns there. Throughout all of our reports today, by the way, this green color is going to be productive activity for that specific group. Purple will be unproductive. This is our own live data, so pretty productive. And then this peach color right here, that is going to be the offline meeting metric. If there is no digital activity taking place, we can look at the employee's calendar to see if they were in a valid meeting during that time. And so this data truly complements digital activity to give leadership a comprehensive view into their employees' day, which does become vital as employees get reintroduced to a hybrid or a office environment. Down on the report, trend analysis is available to understand how changes such as policy changes or new processes are impacting our overall productivity. Is there maybe a unexpected decline in productivity? Are we maintaining an expected level despite changes to policies, team capacity, or maybe even leadership changes? On the right, category allocation complements all this activity levels to understand if my team is really allocating time to the appropriate tools. Is this what I expect, or is there maybe an opportunity to course correct? Looking at my sales team here, they spent majority of their time in email, secondary in Salesforce, and then Slack, kind of like our teams, if you will. This does look good. This is in line with my expectations, no concerns. I would like to see a little bit more time in meeting software, actually meeting with prospects, but this allocation is great. There's such a small difference between meeting software and Slack. That's absolutely fine. Below on this report, individuals who did not meet the team or department specific goal will be highlighted for managers. And so if I get this report in 1 week, I see Rob pop up on it, I am more than likely not going to take action. However, if I receive it and week after week, the same individuals are on it, that is my indicator to go ahead and take a deeper look into this user. We might have a disengagement issue. We might have an opportunity to redirect. I'll head to the users tab up here that I have teed up ready to go for really a more holistic view across my entire team, regardless of where they are in relation to that productivity goal. So where does everybody stack up? I have some folks maybe putting in even too much time as an example. Up top here, 9.6 might not be so healthy, but really where does everybody stack up? What does kind of average look like within my team? And so this is going to help me understand and really get that snapshot of productivity levels, regardless of where people are, regardless of location. Down below, category allocation of your tools is displayed on a per employee basis so that I can understand if there are opportunities for team members to really become more efficient with their time. For example, if I know that Tyler is doing really well right now, how can I take his workflow, understand where he spends his time, and compare that to other individuals who might not be doing as well right now, like Haley as an example. I can see some immediate differences, like the amount of time in Salesforce and then Slack. Haley has maybe a fraction of the time in Salesforce, triple the amount of time in Slack, right? Salesforce is the primary tool for this specific team. It's a sales team. It's where I expect them to be doing their work. It's the work that moves the needle, which you'll hear a few times today. I will say I'll give her some leniency because she is newer. And so she may be reaching out to coworkers in Slack here as an example with questions. But ultimately, this helps me see, where there might be some additional training I can provide, where people might be spinning their wheels, or point to other resources to course correct, get her into the right tools, really understand what that pattern for a successful day looks like throughout my team. Okay, once I understand, who are my outliers in terms of productivity, or if I just want a further understanding of exactly how the day is spent and looks for my team, I can use our top users and groups report for a more granular view into activity really across a timeline. Very much one of our more popular reports. Actual time on productive activities, unproductive, and offline meetings is presented in this report and introduced instead of the averages that we previously saw. We will stay with Michael's data up top here. You're more than welcome to click on any employee to look into their day. But down below, we're going to go ahead and use this interval chart for a clean visual analysis of his last 7 days. For him, his work time, like when he starts, when he stops, seems pretty consistent here. But I will note that a 7 or an 8-hour workday can be pretty spread out for employees who are remote. This work policy and this kind of lifestyle, if you will, affords the ability to, take kids to school, maybe run an errand later in the day if you need, which honestly, that might be okay. That might be totally fine, depending on the organization. And also, as long as expectations are still met and the employee is available when coworkers need them. I can verify whether the gaps in activity throughout the day, as seen here as an example, this big white space, whether these are appropriate and expected, or if they're really taking too many breaks and they're just not available at times when we need them. This is where, these gaps, this is where we could see a potential abuse of the flexibility of remote work. For certain functions, this may be vital as they support clients directly and need to be ready to support them ultimately. Often, though, it's very interesting. The data can provide another story. We have seen several organizations who have allowed remote or hybrid work for a while, and their employees may actually be blurring that kind of home and work lifeline. I know that I do. People might be working way too much, not taking breaks. So Michael here has just a solid chunk of hours of work without taking a single break. They might be hopping on, late at night just to respond to an email real quick, just because I can, because it's there. And so ultimately, all these things, they really build up and can attribute to someone really becoming at risk of burning out. As a manager, if the data does show this behavior, I have an opportunity to actually intervene and make sure, that they have a healthier balance and keeping my people happy. This view here as well, as we've kind of seen, if I hover over, it will show me the dominant activity in a 5-minute interval. So what is the flow of an employee's day? Does this process make sense? Are there too many, purple or unproductive spots? Michael has none. Amazing. But these are really all questions that I'm asking as I seek to understand what does the day look like and how is that time allocated, throughout the time that they have during the day. Speaking of wanting to understand how an employee's day and time is allocated, we're going to dive into our new activity alignment feature. This is in early access currently, so should be new to the vast majority of you, even if you are current customers of ours. Activity alignment enables managers to really measure and maximize time spent on the high value activities that drive business results. You can define and measure time spent on core activities. It's a phrase we'll see throughout the dashboard, rather than just the sheer number of volume, the volume of hours worked, if you will. Right away on this team tab for my account executives, I see that we have some opportunity. A large percent of this team is misaligned to our goals. 10% of the team needs to increase their time on core activities that I have defined. And this trend chart on the right here shows that, we have been dipping into needing to just increase our productive time in general. As a manager, this is where I'm starting to actually use the data to give me more guidance and direction for my employees and my staff. Same format. So there's the team, and then there is also a users type view available here. So I can go ahead and get really, again, just that full breakdown of everybody within the team, not just the high level, to understand where those unique coaching opportunities. And we'll go ahead and stay with the same team just to make it consistent here. My account executive team, excellent. But here is where, again, the whole goal of this is to make sure that we can provide more tailored conversations to our team members that help take the conversation from work more hours to, hey, this is how you actually operate a bit more efficiently for our specific role for how we're supposed to function. I do have Michael filtered here, as I did see he was someone noted as needing to increase his core activity. So a slew of information becomes available down below. Right away, I have a full breakdown of which tools are productive. So you define them as productive, but non-core, like Slack as an example. These are ones that he's spending too much time in. They're necessary for his job. We have to have Slack. We have to have our calendars. But they're, again, not ones that necessarily contribute to success. And so how do we reduce time in these specific tools? The dashboard down below will actually even pinpoint which specific tools he can maximize time in and which ones to minimize. And so again, this is an introduction to a level of very targeted visibility for managers. How do I actually coach individuals? Ultimately, we're looking for that high value work, core activities. Where can we adjust where time is spent? With this specific dashboard, the configuration of it is a little bit unique. The configuration is actually available on a per team basis. We're talking about what a core activity is. That's going to be different from one function to another. So you can truly ensure that the guidance that we're giving on the previous slides is tailored to that specific function. Managers can come in, they have the ability to set it up for a single team, multiple teams. We'll try a different account executive team here. But what are, again, the top activities that move the needle for my specific team? And so you can either select categories that are existing on your ActivTrak account manually, or you can actually use templates that we have based on roles. So for, a sales rep, this is typically what we see, et cetera. So a great way to kind of get you started without starting from scratch. Analysis of our ActivTrak customer data has shown that top performers spend 70 to 80% of their time in core activities for their role, hence the need for this specific breakdown. And again, just really more tailored coaching. Since this is a early access type dashboard, I wanted to take a second. I think we have a poll here. If there is any interest in gaining early access to this, you can go ahead and reply yes to the poll here. We'll make sure we follow up. Excellent for, kind of our existing customers who have some data in the dashboard there. Yeah, excited that we had this one to show today based on earlier poll results about, what are actually the proper activities, how do we optimize productivity?
All right, great. I think also just the other thing to note is if you aren't seeing activity alignment in your side nav, that could be for a couple of reasons, right, Leah?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it is in early access. So we haven't just released it to folks unless they have opted in for it at some point. So yes, totally fine. Nothing is wrong with your account. We'll just have to do something on the back end to make sure it's available.
Okay. And then also I think, and later on we do have a slide that does kind of show what all of these capabilities that we're talking about today, like which plans they're aligned with. But I think activity alignment is a premium if you're on one of our legacy plans or professional features. So just to mention that as well. But yeah, okay. All right. I think we have our responses in for that. Thanks to everyone who's very high interest in this feature, which is not surprising. We did build it because we had heard a lot of feedback from customers. So thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right, Leah, keep going.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Okay, great. Another feature that we do have, and so if you do have the premium or professional plan, this should be ready to go for you. But in terms of, effective and useful coaching for your team, we have the appropriately named coach module. Coach goes through all of this interactive data each week and surfaces opportunities for improvement across 3 categories. You have productivity, utilization, and then efficiency and focus. This is meant to really be a leading indicator for managers. Where should I focus my attention on specific circumstances that, might be happening? Where are there intervention or coaching opportunities that I need to be made aware of and take action? So again, regardless of their location, sometimes we see people pop up on all 3 of these that are fully in the office and right there working with the manager. This report, as with the insights, can also be subscribed to and delivered to your inbox, when you need. Obviously, since it runs through every week, most people have it delivered on a Monday to see what the new opportunities were. But looking at it, I can understand who is new to that opportunity, who has improving behavior. So they were out of threshold at one point, and then who has recurring behavior. So the habit is consistent, it's still going on. Looking at utilization as an example, I do obviously see Michael here, who is marked as someone new to this behavior. So let's go ahead and take a deeper look with our view details to see why exactly he was flagged here. Michael at the top. So last week he averaged 9 hours on productive activities, quite a large amount of time. He's actually 36 minutes a day over what we call the healthy parameter for his specific team. Now, I will say, as this manager, I know he just got back from an extended vacation. So I might be okay with him being on this report for 1 week. However, if I see him continue to be flagged, I'm going to look at this data to make sure, are you taking enough breaks? I might also see, hey, where else can I offer some assistance? You have too many projects going on right now. Really, maybe it might be a redistribution of projects, it might be some training, but ultimately, this is going to be my indicator that there is an issue. And we often see that top performers might show up as overutilized. When you have those one-on-ones, they say, oh no, everything's fine, I'm completely fine. But the data, when you have that it says otherwise, that sparks a more informed conversation. I will say, if you are a manager and you're looking at this and I have no idea where to start in regards to actually coaching this, what do I offer? There is a little coaching advice link here on all of these opportunities that takes your leaders to an article from our productivity lab with advice on what they can suggest for each different type of coaching category, which excellent for people who are not sure where to start. As a manager, though, it is my job to ensure that these behaviors are truly resolved, which means getting this report the next week, or if I didn't subscribe for some reason, coming back to this report next week and just making sure that people really are improving. Once there is 6 full weeks of improved behavior, they fall off. But if I come back and I have a conversation, with Eric about his utilization, I come back, he's still out of bounds. This is the data that I need to go back to the drawing board, try another approach, and see what else I can do to actually resolve the behavior. Okay. Let's pivot a little bit away from productivity and focus more on that utilization metric that we just were introduced to. So we're going to dive into the workload balance report that drills deeper into engagement and then workload distribution levels that, again, we kind of just got a taste into. Employees who are overutilized or underutilized, as Sarah mentioned, ultimately that's going to be an attrition risk. Folks who are underutilized, they might be really over as well. They contribute to missed outputs for the business in addition to being those attrition risks, right? So we see their performance, we see poor work-life balance for them as well. So quite a few things. Looking at the last month for my team, expanded my time frame here, 86% of my team was in a healthy work state based on our specific goal, which is excellent. This is nice to see from a management perspective. We did still have 3 individuals who were outside of the healthy zone. Trend analysis on this report is key, as utilization may fluctuate depending on what's going on in the team or the organization as a whole, right? For example, when I look at the last month for my specific team, I do see a lot of underutilization at the beginning of January, the second week here. However, we did have a multiple day in-person work event where people were kind of working, they had their laptops. So I am completely fine with this. I understand the context about what was going on. Sometimes when I look at this and it's the end of the month, end of the quarter, I might see some overutilization. Again, this is a sales team, a quarterly business sales team. So some temporary overutilization at those specific time periods might be fine. Context is absolutely key. And that's why the trend of it, the more data you get, if I see constant over or underutilization, I truly do have an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper and see what we can do with our existing workforce and our existing employees. Okay. Same format. I do have the users tab on this report so I can get a holistic view across the board and see where exactly those unique opportunities for redistribution might exist. So Michael, we saw him as overutilized, constant throughout our reports here. Can I maybe give some of his tasks or his projects to Kelvin, highlighted right there for me, an underutilized person with the ability to take on more on his specific team, right? Or even those who are marked as healthy but are on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of productive time, they might also be viable options to take on more tasks here. The individuals who are underutilized, flagged as underutilized on your report, this is an available headcount. These are people that you have available today. They might be able to be trained up. They might be struggling, simply not know what to do, need that extra guidance. They might be able to just take on more projects, more tasks, but ultimately, these are people we have ready to go that we can make use of before incurring the cost of looking for additional headcount. Okay, last few reports here on our main topic. Thanks for hanging in there. When it comes to comparing work habits and productivity by location and then measuring the adoption and compliance with our policies, especially since most y'all are hybrid, two reports top the list. This first one I am excited to show. Again, it's actually in beta currently, so y'all are getting a lot of sneak peeks, but the demand for it has been high, I will say. For schedule validation and even intraday schedule validation, we have our schedule adherence report. This is available in the web application as I'm showing you here, but it's also available in a standard Power BI template that we have. A key added element to this report when we're looking at it is up top, this expected shift time or their scheduled shift time. Here, I'm looking at yesterday for my sales team when the expected shift for these folks was 8 to 4 p.m. As a manager, I can quickly validate whether the location was correct, right? Yesterday was Wednesday. Everybody is supposed to be remote. That's absolutely fine. If I'm looking at a Thursday, I would expect to see everyone in the office. Here's where I can go ahead and quickly validate that. So were they in the right location? How much productive activity that they have within the parameters of their scheduled shift? So again, not missing part of their shift to take their kid to school and then making up for it in the evening. This is within their scheduled shift here. The first login, last login, which is usually pretty close to their scheduled time here. And then the really cool thing, how late after their scheduled shift start did they actually start? And if they ended their shift early, by how much? Applying this scheduled data over actual data provides managers with a more one-stop shop type view into schedule compliance. And again, this is under live report, so it updates every 5 minutes. You can do this intra-day. Has everybody showed up who is supposed to? Employees who are habitually late to their shift or leaving early can often create gaps in crucial coverage, right? For our clients, our internal teams, they expect people to be there. And so this view allows leadership to intervene in a timely manner. And again, since this is sneak peek, it's actually still in beta. I think we have one more poll for y'all to see if this specific report is something that you are interested in gaining access to. And this one is, as mentioned, under live reports. So if you have our base Essentials plan, Essentials Plus, it's something that you should be able to test out.
Yes, this one is in all plans, which is awesome. All right, we've still got people. All right, we'll give you just another few seconds. Okay. All right. I think we can go ahead and end that. That's amazing. I'm excited to share this with Suzanne, who is also a very friendly face on the webinar circuit here at ActivTrak. She'll be really excited to see that so many people are interested in this. So we will definitely make sure that you get followed up with and get added to it so you can get access to the beta. So all right, we can go ahead and move forward.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, last key report here. Tying it all the way back though, as Sarah mentioned earlier, location is such an important factor in what is now becoming this standard of hybrid work, understanding folks are in the right place, but also how are they working? Is it in a healthy capacity? And so where even though some people are definitely have, initiatives to do more in-office presence, we saw some of y'all are still fully in office. Very few are doing absolutely 100% in the office for the entire company. Most of them have some form of hybrid policy. We saw that most people here do, we do. This particular dashboard here, Location Insights, is going to help folks validate, are we seeing the appropriate levels of productivity at both a team level and individual level? You can also look across a time frame here. So it's the same type of data, but more of a zoom out from our last report. Productivity on this report is broken out across remote, office remote when that's a hybrid day. Maybe I worked a little bit at home, went to the office to finish up, and then office when the entire workday was spent within the office. This really allows organizations, again, high level, if you want to drill down, you can, but to verify where the expected levels of efforts and productivity are happening and then where they might be falling short. We're pretty consistent here, but interesting to see what y'all's data might see. Really are my remote and hybrid people, ultimately the question, are my remote and hybrid people putting in the expected amount of time? Is this policy working and something that we can actually confidently continue to support or maybe start to support or offer? Again, most employees do want some type of hybrid remote flexibility. So if you can confidently with data continue to offer that flexibility, it'll help you attain and attract top talent. You'll notice this peach color again on the reports, which as a reminder is that offline meeting time, helps really complement the picture, fill in the gaps in digital activity. Typically, with this complementing the digital activity, we do see lower digital productivity in the office or when people are working in a hybrid capacity. Knee-jerk reaction, oh no, we have less productivity when people are in the office or when they're hybrid and we let them, go home for the day. But the reality is that I expect to see slightly lower digital productivity in the office or a hybrid capacity and more offline meeting time. Really the point of bringing your employees in is wanting that face-to-face collaboration, going to meetings together in person. It's the point of being in the office, right? So it's an important thing to keep in mind when looking at the data.
Hey, Leah, we actually have a question, a couple of questions. One around how these meetings are tracked. Does it automatically look at like calendars to see if someone is in a scheduled meeting? I know we have calendar integration as well. They're all kind of linked together. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I think people are also just kind of curious, like how we're looking at, one, the offline, like office and remote, like how are we looking at that? And then also like when we're talking about actually being in offline meetings, how are we actually tracking that too?
Excellent. Great questions, especially since these metrics are present throughout several of the reports. And so the two pieces, so the location analysis, we are primarily looking at IP address information. And then secondary, there's a Wi-Fi signal coming from the device that is completely hashed that allows us to understand their location, even if they are, this might be technical for some, but if your employees are connecting through a VPN or if I'm using like a remote desktop, something like that, we're still able to determine their location accurately because of both of those pieces of data. The second, the offline meeting. So it's something that you can enable. So if you are not seeing it in your account today, totally fine. You can enable it. We have an integration for Outlook and Google Calendar as well. Very simple setup. But that makes it to where, again, if I have no digital activity on my device, it'll look to my calendar to see if I'm in a valid meeting. And the things that make it valid, the parameters around that, are the number of people who didn't decline. So there has to be two other people on there by default who either accepted or didn't respond, just didn't decline. And then also the duration. So right now, the max duration is 8 hours. That is configurable as well. That's really meant to combat if some organizations, the policy is that if you're taking the day off, you block the entire day, add your manager and your coworkers, which would bring in that secondary condition. And so it's meant to make sure that we don't pull in PTO, we don't pull in like a focus block, or if I block my calendar real quick to go take my dog to the vet, it doesn't meet the parameters, so it doesn't count. So these offline meetings truly are valid meetings where there's no digital activity.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. And we'll make sure, I know a couple of weeks ago, we had a session where we actually went into the configuration of some of those things. So either, you can check that out or in that follow-up email that we send out with this recording and the slides, we will also make sure to include a link to that knowledge base article on our help center on how to enable those calendar integration settings and how to set it up. So we will make sure to include a link in that email as well. So you can just click that and get to the answers that some of the folks are asking about. So thanks, Leah.
Yeah, my pleasure. Keeping mindful of time, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit here. So with the location analysis, we'll go to the users tab. Schedule and policy adherence is another way that organizations use this report. And so I like this view in the actual users breakdown here, looking, at everybody across the board. And I will go ahead and maybe we'll use Michael. We'll use Miles as an example. Again, our own live data, and we're primarily remote, so I like to get someone with the mix here. But ultimately, a key feature of this is that I can come in as a leader and validate whether folks are actually adhering to the policy. If the ask has come in, twice a week, I'm looking at 30 days. Miles came into the office in a hybrid capacity twice, full office day once. Not exactly the adherence here. I do also have the ability to set up this report. Hey, anybody who didn't work the last week, 2 days in the office, 3 days in the office, filter that report and drop that filtered version into my inbox. It's a really great way to just be notified of individuals who aren't adhering to your policy. Okay, this covers our core reports here. Again, want to be mindful of time here. So I'm going to stop my sharing on this. I'm actually going to kick it back over to Sarah for just a second, but make sure we're in the right spot here for you. Right.
Great. Thank you, Leah. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for walking us through that, Leah. Now she's going to hop back in to show the top reports to optimize cost savings. We're going to look at location insights, which helps identify savings opportunities across your office portfolio. We're going to look at capacity and headcount planning BI templates. So these are pre-made templates that you can leverage if you're an ActivConnect customer. And this will ensure that you're operating at optimal capacity. And then we'll look at another BI dashboard, which is license management. And this will show how you can optimize expenses on software licenses. I myself just got Salesforce taken away from me because I had cumulatively used it like 3 minutes. I probably accidentally opened it during those 3 minutes. And so I was happy to yield that license back to them, but we used it ourselves to flag that opportunity. So back to you again, Leah.
Cool, thank you. And I feel that as well. I have IT asking me if I have used something specific. And I wanted to say yes, but I know that they have data that says no. So can't really fight that one. That's okay. But yeah, so back into, we focused a lot today about how our data can assist managers and leaders effectively manage their distributed workforce, but there's a lot of value available for, executive teams to identify actual cost savings regardless of where their employees sit. It might be all in the same country, distributed. The first comes in the form of office space and real estate. And so back on the same location report, I am looking at it in the web application, by the way, but this is available in one of our standard out of the box Power BI templates if executives prefer to consume data there, which is what we see often. But office space utilization over time, this bottom chart here, is really a key metric that's going to be provided within the same report. If our offices are only being used 10 to 15% of the time on any given time frame, again, if we're looking at a quarter, our values, again, looking pretty good here. But if we're only using it 15% of the time, do we have an opportunity to maybe right size our office? Do we maybe reduce the number of offices? What does that look like? Or explore a remote policy for some functions who don't have that flexibility today, especially if you have the ActivTrak data to help you manage. We did use, our numbers look so good, by the way, because we did use our own data maybe about 2 years ago around office space to justify a smaller office here in Austin. And it's worked out great. Real estate costs decreased and the utilization of the space increased. Win-win. The second major cost saving opportunity comes in the form of running optimal capacity across your organization. ActivTrak's headcount planning dashboard was designed with CFOs, COOs in mind to help find available capacity and overspending across the workforce. Bandwidth is identified across, you have low available capacity down here at the bottom, or employees who are closely aligned with their productivity goal who can only take on minimal more work. Medium available capacity, or employees with a moderate amount of unused hours. They might have some downtime during the day. And then high available capacity. And so these are employees with a significant amount of unused hours. They might be underutilized in their current role. They might be quiet quitters. You're able to apply your actual salary information from your organization to this dashboard. And so the values here become actual potential for your organization. There is also an analysis by team and level, so kind of different tab for this report that allows you to drill down into those different teams and areas. You can look by level of employee, so as an associate, manager, etc. Those are all customizable as well. And then also individual employee. And so ultimately, top level leadership is looking at this. How is the manager utilizing the team members? Are there quiet quitters that are costing us money? Can we potentially reallocate employees between teams or departments? Ultimately, with the use of this dashboard and data, C-suite can confidently approve or decline headcount requests with data rather than, the manager saying, hey, we need more help here. And last, but certainly not least, we do have, kind of mentioned earlier, but businesses do tend to invest in technology to support this hybrid or remote workforce, which can get very expensive. A simple CSV with a cost per license for your paid tools and then our ActivTrak technology usage data blend together to realize true license utilization and highlight which tools in your specific stack have the biggest savings. For us, we currently have 25K on the table in Zendesk licenses just sitting unused. There is another tab on this one as well that allows leaders to identify those opportunities within their team. So who specifically might be able to receive some additional training so we can get use out of their license, or it might just be additional communication. Hey, a reminder, you're supposed to be using this, not this. Or, you can actually use this data to simply be equipped during your renewal conversations to confidently right-size your tech stack appropriately, which ultimately is going to be providing an immediate return on investment. So again, 2 reports that have your own actual values in there. It's going to be some actual savings for your organization, which is we love to see. Okay, great. And with that, I actually think I'm going to pass it over to Megan to finish us out today.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Leah, and to Sarah for sharing all of this information. I think this is super helpful. Are you going to, I think we're gonna pop up the slides.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there's always questions around which of these capabilities are in which plans and whatnot. So want to make that super easy for you. So we do have this slide. We will share it in the deck that we will send a link to after today's session. Again, we will send that no later than tomorrow, but this does show everything that we covered today and the plans that you can get access in. So I did want to also just say, if we could go to the next slide, I did want to remind everyone here about ActivTrak Academy. So if you are a paid customer, I want to just make sure that you are taking advantage of this wonderful, wonderful on-demand hub. It's for both short, so like 2 to 3 minute courses, and also longer form courses. So some of our past trainings are in there and things like that, where they go into a lot of detail. Then there's some shorter ones. And we even have regular office hours that are live small group sessions. And for the record, that says getting started, but we know that no matter where you are on your journey, you may need to fine tune how you have things set up. Maybe your passive time or your productive and your unproductive time isn't maybe set up quite right for your team. Maybe now you have teams and you want to set things up to be different by team, things like that. Those sessions are great to go in and get that more personalized help if you have those questions. And we have those regularly. So we will also make sure to include this link in that email that we are going to send you. I just want to make sure that y'all know about this because it is such a great resource, for you if you need quick reminders or, like I said, those live small group sessions. Okay. And then also third, if we could go ahead and pop up our final poll for today, I do want to make sure that if you have questions on anything from today or you'd like us to get in touch, that you have a way to do that. So if you'd like a demo, if you want a salesperson to follow up with you, because maybe, those BI templates that we just talked about, you're interested in those and would like to understand what ActivConnect is and how, if that's a good fit for your organization, or maybe you saw some things that are on a different plan than you're on and you're really interested in those. Or if you're a customer and you really you just want to talk to your customer success person, about, what's going on with your account or what's going on at your org. We're always very interested in hearing about those things. So we'll go ahead and leave that up. We have like maybe 2 minutes for questions. So we'll go ahead and jump into those. I think one of the questions here that we had was actually, I think a little bit around if an employer has two work schedules. So one is a 7.5 hour day and one is an 8 hour day. So I'm guessing maybe it's for two different teams or maybe not. Can the report be broken down into those type of work schedules?
Yes. So the way that the reporting is going to work, there's filters up top to select a team. Employees can absolutely be in multiple teams. So, Megan, if that's your schedule, I might have you in marketing, which your goal is 8 hours. That's your schedule, or you might have different parameters. I might have you in a different group where you have that 7.5 expectation. I would simply change the filter, change my time for like schedule adherence. But the beauty of that is, yes, so I can look at your different scheduled times for schedule adherence based on your group. And then in the insight reports, whatever I'm filtered to, we're taking that customized goal into consideration for flagging you for, being outside of a threshold, et cetera. So a lot of flexibility. It would just really rest on two groups, excuse me.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and then we have a couple of just sort of like baseline sort of ActivTrak questions. Does ActivTrak count time spent during scheduled virtual meetings as productive time if the employee is simply present in the meeting and not doing other tasks on their computer during the meeting? So they're not touching their keyboard or moving their mouse or, doing any of those things out of the box. How does ActivTrak consider that?
Yeah, so obviously, if you don't have the calendar integration enabled, it would be a gap in their report for that time. If they do have the calendar integration enabled, which again, included in our base plan. So if you're a customer, that's available to you today for free 99. It would count as offline meeting time. So it would be that peach metric. It doesn't factor into your productive green activity currently. We might be able to change that in the future, but currently it's a complementary metric of offline meeting time.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And then I think another question was on, can you combine like a desktop and a laptop into one user? So let's say a person has two systems that they're using, but it's one person. Can we combine those profiles?
We sure can. Absolutely. Great question. It's a very common setup. I might have, my desktop in the office, take my laptop home. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Also, just a quick response. Somebody did ask, like, how can you find the Academy? Actually, in the product, in the left-hand nav, Leah, I don't know if you still have a tab open with the product or not, but if not, that's okay.
Yeah, I do.
Because we could just show real quick. where that is so everyone can see. Like I said, we will also link to it right under help in that left-hand nav, ActivTrak Academy. I highly recommend if you star it, then it will then go and be up in your favorite. So then if you scroll up, it's right there, super handy. And then you can click on that and it'll take you into the Academy and you can see the different courses that are available. So all right, well, we are a little over time. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us. Thanks to Leah and Sarah, of course, and we really appreciate you being here. We will have another session in 2 weeks from today. We'll be talking about, how to compliance and some other things in ActivTrak, how to stay on top of those things. So stay tuned for those invitations and announcements around those things. But friendly reminder, we will send out an email with the resources we discussed today, plus the slides, the recording, all of that good stuff. And thanks so much again for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank y'all.